advocates.
Okay. So I guess a question is, I mean, the law is on the books, so it could be ignored, enforced, or rewritten. I mean, I think the commissioner at least deserves some credit for facing the fact that this is there, and she wants to try to come up with some way. And from what she told us when she visited with us several months ago, I mean, what she was describing sounded somewhat modest. But what I would ask the two of you is, what do you think she should do? We have this law that's not enforced. Should she ignore it? Should she try to enforce it working with private schools, or should it be rewritten? It's got to be one of the three.
I think what's important when people say, don't shoot the messenger, but people do look at the messenger. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very important to look at the messenger. Even though you shouldn't shoot the messenger, as the saying goes, it is something that I think elected officials, you talk about the commissioner of the education department in the state of New York, they need to understand what is the angst, what is the fear of the private school population about this conversation. And I think the angst and the fear that the private school population, I myself am a proud parent of children that go to private school, and I'm very proud of my kids. My wife is very proud of the kids as well, and I'm already a grandparent, and I am a product of the private schools. In fact, I went to the same private school that Nicholas Moster went to. So I have direct experience about the school. And I can speak for myself in that regard. People in the Orthodox and Hasidic community, when they see the messengers that talk about this issue, they see it's the same people that have been criticizing the community, and I'm not talking specifically about any specific person. I can give you an example, though. For example, Peter Bradley in Rockland County, who has been accused as being a vicious anti-Semite. He has been denounced by not only Orthodox Jewish people, but people in general about his hate and anti-Semitism. When they see him write a letter to the New York State Education Department, and I can read the letter that he wrote, but I think it will take up too much of the time. They get concerned because all of a sudden they think, right or wrong, that this is not about education. This is an attack on their religious freedom. This is an attack on their traditions. This is an attack on their lifestyle, and this is an attack on their culture. I responded to Peter Bradley wrote a letter to the State Education Department, and then he went and he published a letter online, which tells you a little bit, at least in my opinion, about his intentions. When I found out about his letter, I sent the letter to the State Education Department, which I think it's important for me to read, and there might answer some of the questions
not
that you had. Not the whole letter. It's a very short letter.
The thing is, there are people who we understand you disagree with, who are putting forth whatever they're putting forth and reaching out to Albany. But you're doing the same. And the commissioner. We've met with her. She's a serious person. She's not going to just give in to anything that anybody says. And I know she knows she wants to come up with something here that everybody can live with and that can work. So the question is, what we want to understand is, when these guidelines come out on how to enforce the law, how do we make it work? Like, what can work? What can Albany do that everyone can live with? Because what Bradley's saying, in the end, that doesn't matter. She's not going to adopt his position.
But you have to acknowledge, though, that you said, what year was this law on the book? Got on the book?
At least 61.
Since 1961 till 2018, right? There was no conversation about this.
Right.
All of a sudden, there is a conversation about it. And that conversation came about because of people like the Bradleys of the community have been the messenger about this. And then all of a sudden there's a defensive shield that goes up amongst the private school and civic community, and they say, there's always room for improvement, like my good friend Rabbi or Mr. Rappaport, whatever he prefers.
Yosef is good.
Yosef is fine. Has said there's room for improvement in the private school community. In fact, in the school that I went to, there was room for improvement, and they probably improved since I graduated from that school.
I visited the school, and I visited while there was a special lecture for the teachers, how to be better teachers.
So they
Your
probably,
school. I was there.
The school that I went, they probably improved. There's room for improvement for the schools that my children go to. There's room for improvement in the East Ramapo School District that happened to be in my district. There's room for improvement, guess what? In Ivy League colleges. There's always room for improvement, and we welcome improvement. But all of a sudden, when you talk about an issue, that's the law in the books. What we're talking about is education about children. It's not about any which way about laws. But when you look at the messenger, when you look that this entire conversation came about when you see haters who were the ones who became the messengers, that is what gets a lot of people in the private school community frightened. They see this as an attack on their religious freedom, on their lifestyle, on their traditions. I will read to you one passage. Education is a necessary part of any community, and there needs to be meaningful discussions of how to enhance educational opportunities for all students. Okay? That's something that I've written, and I stand behind those words. But in no conversation should we be listening to the voice of a bigoted and racist individual. Okay? I hope you consider my strong objections to Peter Bradley's involvement in the matter. Okay? That is the crux of the issue. When you have a group of people who, rightfully or wrong, we can have that conversation, see this as an attack on their religious freedom.
Right.
They see this an attack. You agree with me?
I mean, I know what you're saying.
Okay, you said right. So for a minute I thought we have a breaking news story.